A very good morning to you and welcome to Rise and Shine Daily. Of course, it's a Friday morning, and like we'll always say, is Lifestyle Friday. And my name is Janice Govs. Thank you so much for being part of our show this morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Africa. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Akwa Ibom State. It's a beautiful day to rise and shine. I'm sure that the sun on your heels this morning looks good. My name is Uyai Aniekan, and I am greatly delighted to be here this morning. I'd like for you to be a part of this growing community. So follow us across all social media platforms, all of which you can find at spectrumtv.ng. Of course, we also have our personal social media handles. You should be following us. We are a lot of steam, beyond what we do on set. You really need to get to meet us. And then, of course, our phone lines will be displayed on the screen in the course of the program. We'd love for you to call in, send us WhatsApp or text messages to make your contributions on the show this morning. So, a quick word. I know that the Bible says that laughter is like medicine to the body, and a good smile always beams up everybody's day. It's been a good laugh this morning back end, and we like that we could come up with
Yeah.
that energy. So smile, be happy, no
Yeah,
matter what's going on
definitely.
around you.
Yeah, definitely. It
Yeah,
was it was something else, and it's always good to start the morning on that
yeah,
note, though.
yeah,
They'll always make you laugh, in terms of all the people behind production and everything.
yeah.
But we are happy that we are here. But yeah, what is it about Fridays that you like?
I don't think I have any personal connection to Friday because I'm not really looking forward to anything.
Yeah.
I know mostly I spend Fridays with music. So maybe that might be the alteration. But then since I still have to like work all day, I think if at all I have anything special about Friday is the fact that I get to spend my night with a lot of music. I
Okay.
have to work, I have to rehearse, put my arrangements in place. So I think music is what makes me look forward to Friday, if at all I do.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think, but for me, normally it's just okay. So
you're
that's the
done.
end of
You're done.
production,
Yeah.
the end of another week,
Mm.
another very productive week,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, taking uh a breath, breathing out and all of that,
Mm.
and trying to like recoup and brood over how the week went
Mm.
and what you did right, what you didn't do right, and try to see how you can make amends for the next week. That's fantastic. uh, we have come this far.
Mm.
Monday, when you start Monday and you're like one day down,
Wait,
four to
how
go.
many days to go?
One down, four
Yeah.
to go, and all of that, and then you just start the countdown from Monday,
Mm-hmm.
and then when you come back to Friday, you're like, finally, it's
Done. Done
done
and
and
dusted.
dusted. But we are happy, and
Mm.
of course, it's always a good thing and a good feeling, coming out here every morning to
Yeah.
talk about very critical issues,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, issues on the front burners, disturbing a lot of Nigeria, disturbing Nigeria itself. And so, once again, we'd like to welcome you to Rise and Shine Daily, of course, the Friday edition. Don't forget, this is the end of the working week and, of course, the beginning of weekend. So I don't know what you like to do with your Friday, but take out time to rest the Lord and recoup for the next week so that you'll be productive as well and very sound and smart in terms of your brains now. We'll just go straight now to our flash stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, still in the heel on the heels of inauguration. I
Yeah.
think if you're counting from today, about 17 days to inauguration.
Okay.
Yes, it's about 17 days to inauguration. With of course the wife of the incoming president now,
Yeah.
Senator Oluremi Tinubu, takes some round of strategic areas of the presidential family in the Aso Rock. And of course, Buhari received, who was received, Tinubu explained that the glass house in the villa is a transitional home of the First Lady. And then she said that the glass house is specifically meant for presidents during a transition period. Even though newsmen were not allowed access to some parts of the building during the tour, but that's fine. She went ahead to also say that the wife of President Muhammadu Buhari now went ahead to say that the highly secure residential area of the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is strictly to serve as an accommodation for the president and members of the family. I think we give credit to NTA for this particular footage, but we'll
Mm-hmm.
take a listen to what the wife of the president has to say.
Glass House is a transitional home for the outgoing president. It's not meant for ordinary citizens of Nigeria, to be precise. It's like part of the main residence. It's not for everybody, but it's for the president who was elected and for his special guest. I'm advising that the Glass House should maintain its tradition of being a transition, for the outgoing presidents.
So,
As I'm talking, I think it has to remain so as a norm.
And despite they finished their tenure, I believe that, with the wealth of experience that Mr. President has and the First Lady, that, will be needing their counsel from time to time. I've gone around and she's magnanimously showed me around the house and graciously explained a lot of things to me. I believe that, God will help me, when we move in by the grace of God, and then, we will be able to make impactful contributions to the nation.
I mean, I see this, and all I can really say is that power is moving. I feel like he has an emotion to all of that transition, tour of the facility. You get to understand what this place is, and like, they rightly put, there's some place that, is not open to civilians or people that are not entitled to this facility.
Yes, for security reasons.
For security reasons, yeah. So you can just imagine the wife of the president-elect getting to, like, with just a few days to go. I think it's nostalgic to say. Yeah. I feel a bit emotional watching this. We quite haven't. I don't remember having, like, in time past, hearing that, even for instance, that dear impatient Jonathan had given Aisha Buhari a tour of the facility. Maybe she had done it, but it wasn't in the media space. Yeah. But, having it now is different. And also, I'm doing a quick calculation. One of the very few things that we have seen the wife of the president do in all of the 8 years, she's not been one of those very vocal or expressive, yes, first ladies. We've not really seen, so many parties or things, events organized by her. We've not had a lot of statements by, the wife of the president. So it's good to, put a face and a statement to the wife of the president.
Yeah, definitely. Just like you said, nostalgic moment is very nostalgic. Power is transient. Yes. I think at this point in time, you begin to understand that power is transient, and that whatever comes with you leaving power, it has to do with, okay, so a lot of people, the attention and the spotlight is going to shift from you and your family totally, to the next person that becomes the president and wife of the president. But just 6 days ago also, of course, we saw that the government had started renovations, of Aso Rock Villa, and in preparations of the inauguration as well. So almost like everything is, in top notch right now. Everybody's trying to make sure that the whole process, and what has to be done in terms of the inauguration and all of that. But again, when you also look at, I beg your pardon, when you also look at, some monies that, go into the Aso Rock Villa, and I remember some time ago when they said, the budget for feeding alone in Aso Rock, and Nigerians were like, whoa. All of this money is just to feed people out. Exactly. I'm sure you remember. Yes. Are we feeding the entire nation? Yes. If all of this money is being spent into just feeding alone in Aso Rock Villa. And but I think that it also speaks about waste, and more like if someone like Tinubu is, becomes the president, is sworn in, we begin to look at how some of these things can be curtailed. We don't know how, how do I put it down? The disbursement is made, or the implementation of all these funds, are being used and all of that. But I think at this point, we begin to ask questions. We begin to say, okay, as you step into that shoe, as you take up that saddle of leadership, let us see that some of these things are being curtailed. We're speaking about the health, the travels of presidents, yesterday, and the fact that even the Aso Rock Clinic is not in good shape. So at every point in time, they are allocating so much monies to just what was it called now?
Okay, medical tourism.
Non-medical tourism now, but to put back Aso Rock in shape in terms of painting and all of that. So you begin to ask questions like, where do all these large chunks of money go to? Is it just in renovations, of buildings, and how many times do we have to renovate Aso Rock Villa and all of that? So I think to some extent, some Nigerians will say that, okay, so this is waste, and we expect that as the president-elect comes in, we begin to see how those things can be curtailed.
Well, are those really reforms that, the leadership of lot of that being cut down? But I don't think it's an expectation we can really have, of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But that's great. Sitting First Lady touring the facility of Aso Villa with the wife of the president-elect, I think it's a great move. And I think at the end of the day, even when you hear Senator Oluremi speaking, I think she's like one wife of the president we'll be looking forward to hear, because having been a senator herself, it's more like she would have more than just being the wife of the president to offer. And we might be seeing her in a lot of decisive activities. But we move on from there to our major story. And factions really eat deep into political parties.
Yeah.
It just destroys the ethos and what they stand for. And it's pitiable to see that although Labour Party seems to have reason with the hope and represent something, it doesn't look that way anymore. And we see that the Lamidia Papa faction of the Labour Party has released a statement distancing itself from calls for an interim government and agitations that the president-elect Bola Tinubu not be sworn in on May 29, pending the resolution of the petition before the Presidential Election Tribunal. Now, according to the Labour Party faction, swearing in Tinubu on May 29 may not have any impact on the ongoing legal tussle on the presidential election involving our party, APC, and INEC. The Labour Party, in a statement made available to newsmen by their spokesman Abayomi Arabambi, argued that the Electoral Act and the Constitution of Nigeria do not provide room for a vacuum. So whether the president-elect is sworn in or not, there is right to remove him legally if it is found out that he was not duly elected. Now, of course, citing sections 136 and 146 of the Nigerian Constitution, Arabambi said, what Peter Obi is crying for is not supported by law. He argued that a refusal to swear in Tinubu as president will create a vacuum in the system, adding that the law abhors this. Now, Arabambi said even Peter Obi once benefited from the system of being sworn into office despite pending petitions filed with, which is to swear in Tinubu as president. And if anybody wants to change the narrative, they will have to change the law, he stated. Now, Labour Party wants all obedience. That's how it's written. Clandestinely parading themselves as LP members and other obedience, okay, who may be agitating that the president-elect should not be sworn in, have a rethink, as Labour Party will not support any unlawful means of agitation or change of government violently. So I see that there is a difference here. Of course, they have stated clearly that they will continue to pursue the case in court. But I like the twist that I just, saw, the fact that there's a difference between obedience and obedience. I hope we all knew that. So there are like obedience people that are pushing for things that the Labour Party does not stand for, and then obedience. That's a funny twist. I hope I can, try to use the word more often. But this is, like a faction now, not necessarily representing what the whole Labour Party represents. So it goes to show that right now, the Lamidia Papa faction is a real thing, because that's how it's divided. It means, Lamidia Papa is on one side as the leader of the party, in, for the meantime, and then there are other people that say, okay, no, there's Julius Aburo at the other end. So, and now we're beginning to have conflicting statements coming out of the party, and you're wondering, okay, which one exactly are we going to be, going for? It's a funny twist of fate at this time for the Labour Party.
Yeah, and a very dangerous one, I must say, because at this point in time, there's an objective that the Labour Party wants to achieve, right? And a house, like we always say, a house that
Divided
stands
against
is divided
itself
against
cannot
itself
stand.
cannot stand. And let's take our minds even back to, when the whole Julius Abure thing came up. He was asked to stand down as the national chairman of the Labour Party now, and Lamidi Papa, sworn in as the next national chairman. I know that there were so much allegations now, against Lamidi Papa. The fact that a lot of people said, accuse him of being like a snitch in between the Labour Party. And if going by this, what's now this statement made by the Lamidia Papa faction, it will seem like, yes, maybe there are some APC elements through under the guise of Lamidia Papa that has been planted in the Labour Party just to stall everything that the Labour Party is fighting for. So I think that the Labour Party needs a lot. We were looking at the issue of PDP, Wike and the presidential candidate now, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, and the G7 governors and all of that, or G5 now, governors. And we're thinking that, oh, that's more like a serious battle. But I think that what's happening in the Labour Party is more serious. That's what even the PDP family is facing. So I don't know how the Labour Party intends to handle all of this, but this is just too much. We also understand, yes, because it's something we talked about yesterday lightly, the fact that the Constitution does not allow a vacuum.
Yeah.
So there's definitely going to be a swearing in. Fine, maybe for them, they are distancing themselves from whoever is saying that let there be no inauguration. But I think that all of the back and forth has a way of affecting the whole process, has a way of affecting even the Labour Party family and stalling whatever it is that they're trying to achieve at the end of the day.
Even the faith of the people in the party will begin to wane, because I mean, if you have like literally half of Nigerians that trusted that light can come out of Labour Party, if they begin to experience this, you would have a lot more people reclining and being like, okay, at the end of the day, there's really no hope in this country. Because where are you going to escape to? It's the same, like some of our analysts will always say it's the same crop of people in all of these parties.
Exactly.
They've all been in the People's Democratic Party. They've all been in the APC. It's just more like when the philosophies don't work here, the cross carpet to the other end. Do you know when someone now, pitches you with money and you buy it and try to sabotage,
the efforts of the rest of the party?
It's just like when the PDP is saying we had some Wike in the People's Democratic Party, but are seriously working to support the APC to win the presidential election. So these are some of the things that you're seeing. But then you would also wonder, the likes of Lamidia Papa, why exactly are they working against the the rest of the Labour Party at this time? And when we also talk of factions, we may want to attempt to calculate the percentage leanings. By that, I'm saying how much of the Labour Party is on the Lamidia Papa end than the Abure end. That's also a problem, and this is really going to affect. I think it's affecting contextual conversation. It might not affect the results of the argument in court. It might not, I mean, it's not going to affect the inauguration. The inauguration stands sacrosanct. It doesn't even matter. Now why I'm even saying this is because the statement of the presidential candidate Peter Obi and the rest of the Labour Party saying, oh, there shouldn't be any inauguration. It's just like the shout that anybody else is making at this time, because we have so many more people beyond the Labour Party that are saying the inauguration.
Because there was a protest on Monday.
Yeah, so it's just like a conversation that different people are entitled to have. But when you now see that a party that has said it already, we now have a faction coming out to say, oh, we want to distance ourselves, you're now wondering, okay, who exactly are you in support of?
Definitely. And just like you have said, it's supposed to be something, let's pursue this thing legally in court. Thankfully, the pre-election tribunals have started, and the Constitution gives 180 something days. So let's see what happens at the end of the tribunal, and then we take our decisions, right? So it's not something that, just like you said, it affects the contextual conversation that we are having. Okay, so it looks as if now you cannot even put your house in order and then you're asking that a president's election not be sworn in. That's how it looks like, right? So I think that if the Lamidi faction, and I think also that it behoves on Peter Obi as a person to try to see how he can put his house in issue that is affecting, you know, the political climate in Imo State as we speak, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So I think that Peter Obi, as the leader, automatically he's the leader of the party because he's a presidential candidate. He's the leader of the party aside from the national chairman or whoever represents as a national chairman. So I think let them come together.
A result should have been sought
exactly
after,
so that we don't have these people coming out to make this kind of statement today. Then the Julius Abure faction is also coming out to make another statement. At the end of the day, I think what happened in Imo State, there was the parallel election.
Yeah.
So this one is having his election and the other one is having their election. It doesn't really make any sense. And I think that while we are trying to look at national unity and growing our democracy forward, we should not be having these kinds of squabbles. It doesn't
because
just,
who really do you entrust the country to at the end of the day?
At the end of the
and if you have a quick thought now, imagine the Labour Party has been in existence all of these years. How come we never had factional conversations? So suddenly you're close to the limelight and it's more like, okay, poor man, you do not have issues. You suddenly become rich and, you know, there's all kinds, your children are now struggling for your inheritance.
I think the leadership tussle in the Labour Party dates back, you know, to some extent. It's been a long issue, you know, on the front burner. But maybe it's just coming into limelight because of the popularity of the Labour Party all of a sudden. And of course, just like you say, the spotlight is on them, and that's why you have all of this happen. But again, let us even look at the Julius Abure led, you know, Labour Party.
Okay.
How successful has it been? It is under the leadership of Julius Abure that we have all of the successes accrued and accorded to the Labour Party to this point. We even have under his leadership that, you know, we want a young president, someone that is very, you know, energetic and all of that, and we are queuing behind the man Peter Obi. But when we look at the leadership of Julius Abure, you see that Julius Abure has done so much. I'm not a spokesperson for him, but I'm just looking at what he has been able to achieve under the short time that the Labour Party has been in the spotlight. So what exactly is the problem? Why do we now have a faction? Why do we
trying to unseat him?
Faceless people from his local government come out to say that, oh, he's playing anti-party and we do not want him again? The same allegations against Lamidi Papa. So I think that the Labour Party should actually put their house in order.
It will be very, very necessary at this point so that they can move forward collectively as a party. And like I continue to say, the results of the election tribunal can tilt to anywhere.
Of course,
and I am like, let the Labour Party be ready to work after the tribunals are over. After the tribunals are done and you have all of this faction, I think the worst thing that, you know, we could even happen to a Labour Party or even like the political career of a Peter Obi at this time is to consider moving to any other political party, because that is something that can, you know, begin to be birthed as a result of this faction. You might just have someone that says, okay, I don't want all of this in my hand. I don't want to go through all of this political party stress. Let's look for another party and, you know, put our strength on. It would have been different if a new political party was formed from scratch. Like you said, you know, there were some factions within the Labour Party, ideologies, it might have been different. But so I'm saying this to say that there is a lot of work for the Labour Party to do, going beyond the February 25th election and whatever the results of the tribunal will be. How successful are you going to be in the next round of election depends on how all of these factions play out right now and the work that they're willing to put in, you know, after this.
Yeah, definitely. We'll put a post to that now and I'll look at our last major story for the morning. Of course, we know that that hearing was postponed to the 17th of May. And then we also saw the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, appear in court yesterday. And you needed to see the way he arrived. He actually arrived as maybe president and all of that. But let's put perspective to this. Of course, the presidential election petition court spec sitting in Abuja yesterday had to adjourn till May 18, 2023 for the hearing in the petition of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and its candidate Atiku Abubakar, who filed challenging the outcome of the 2023 presidential election. Meanwhile, Atiku Abubakar was present in court yesterday, as we see from the footages on your screen, to observe proceedings in the case in which he is challenging the declaration of Bola Tinubu of the All Progressives Congress APC by the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC as winner of the 2023 presidential election. The Justice Haruna Samani led 5-member panel adjourned to continue with the pre-hearing session. Counsel for the petitioners, Chris Uchenau San, had informed the court that the parties met and agreed on modalities to be adopted with a view to ensuring a seamless progression of the pre-hearing session. According to him, and I quote, he says, "My lord, counsels for the respective parties have met and put heads together to harmonize and streamline the vital areas and components of the pre-hearing process. The first item resolved by the various councils are documents, and we have agreed to set up a team together to look at the documents and agree on them in order to eliminate objections while tendering them from the bar during the hearing." He also said, "We intend to complete that between Monday and Tuesday next week, and then prepare a schedule of documents to facilitate the hearing." And of course, the second one is the issue of for trials for the petitioners. We have filed ours on May 11, that is, of course, yesterday, and served it on all the parties subject to any modification by the court. And lastly, with respect to motions pending before your lordship, for us at the moment, we have just one motion filed on May 7. We are yet to receive responses of the respondents in respect of the motion, which is for televising of the proceedings. And altogether, according to him, of course, the lead lawyer for Atiku Abubakar, Chris Uche, he says, "We have been served with 4 motions, 2 from the first respondent and 2 from the third respondent. We have reacted to the first one by the first respondent and preparing our response to the other." I'll be access now to even Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. You will see that, okay, so this is the first time they are appearing for the hearing, right? So there are also documents that we need to look at. What documents do we think is more important for this case? And then let's not also forget that time is of essence. So I think every party now is looking at how all of this can be concluded within the window that you know, the constitution has made provisions for. So anything that goes beyond that might not really be accepted. So a situation where everything ends within the windows, and so there's no need to bring in a lot of complexities, documents, you know, that does not even relate with the case, or it relates with the case, but it can be done away with, right? So it's just like comparing notes now. Let's just compare notes, see what we can take out, see what we can bring in, and then we just make it a seamless process so that there's no back and forth, the case goes smoothly. And I think that's a good one.
And it looks like there was really no way to know about these documents prior to the proceedings starting. Because if you see the fact that the People's Democratic Party and the Labour Party are saying, okay, we really need to take out some things from our argument, then, I mean, it just will help the proceedings of the case, like we saw the Labour Party saying, you know, even the APC the APC now was saying it is going to help to hasten the process. So we think it's in good light.
Yes, definitely.
It's definitely in good light. So let's see how the whole issue progresses in the next couple of days. Everyone is out there to argue their petition against the February 25th election, you know, argue it against the winning of, you know, announcements of President-elect Bola Tinubu. So we just all are waiting to see how this is going to culminate at the end of the petition tribunal. So let's hope that, another thing, you'd be concerned and you hope that some of the documents that are removed are not some that, you know, might have given you advantage. But we, at this point, we just trust that the legal luminary that is all displayed across all
INEC to even the lawyers for the APC and all of that. There's that collaboration. So they are comparing notes. Okay, so this will not be needed for this particular argument. Let's take it off so that we streamline. So it's more like streamlining the process, right? So that over the window that the Constitution has made provision for, the case can be, ended, and we know that it's done and done with.
Not even forgetting that some of the petitions have already been sorted. Some people's petition have already been handled, and I mean, this is the result. Take, go.
Yeah, that's Action Alliance.
Yes.
And one other political party.
Yes, like two parties have been sorted.
Voluntarily said they wanted to withdraw, from the whole battle thing.
Yeah, so it's just the case is progressing, and we are here. We are here for it. At the end of the day, we want to see and receive what is in the best interest of our country as a people. Yeah. But I think we'll just lay that particular story to rest now and head straight up to the news brief desk, where we have Mary Joseph on standby to bring us tidbits of global news. When we return, there's so much more to converse about and rise and shine. More serious issues happening in the country. Daily Spotlight is still on the hill. You still want to be here when we return. Please stay with us.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Every society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of these relationships determines how well people, relationships, organizations thrive and how long they stick together. Join Uyai Anyekan on Connect every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and on Sunday 2:30 to 3 p.m. on channel 421 on StarTimes to catch all the conversations, interviews, real stories and how to navigate relationships and family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect live on Spectrum Television.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
As of state and government, Secretary General, delegates.
The rest was being labeled Nigerian for Spectrum TV to improve on the license to
First in the news this morning is a report that the Chief Justice of Nigeria and Chairman Board of Governors of the National Judicial Institute, Justice Olukayode Ariwola, has said a secure maritime domain is vital to economic development and advancement. The CJN spoke in Lagos at the third edition of the Nigerian Admiralty Law Colloquium for Justices of the Supreme Court and Court of Appeal and Justices of the Federal High Courts. Meanwhile, the federal government has asked the state governors to establish their own correctional services and also build their custodial centers, saying that the law has empowered them to do so. Speaking at a two-day conference on decongestion and correction administration in Abuja on Thursday, the Minister of Interior Rauf Aregbesola lamented that Area Godwin Emefiele has urged the Chartered Risk Management Institute of Nigeria to use its position to develop risk management professionals who will help to develop and implement effective risk management strategies in the economy. Emefiele spoke in Lagos at the inauguration of the CRMI, which was formerly known as the Risk Management Association of Nigeria. Heading now to the foreign scene, where we have detained former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan, who is due to appear in court today after the Supreme Court ruled on lawful unrest of his week that he triggered deadly clashes across the country. Khan was ordered to remain in the bench custody under the police protection for his own safety until Friday court's appearance. However, the government has vowed to rearrest Khan should he be released, setting the stage for more unrest. In sport, Lionel Messi is in line to return to Paris Saint-Germain for Saturday's League One game at home to Ajaccio after a club-imposed suspension for going on an unauthorized trip to Saudi Arabia. The seven-time Ballon d'Or winner sat out last weekend, win at Torres after missing a training session to fulfill commitments in his role as a Saudi tourism ambassador. We'll have details of these stories and more in our news at 12. I am Mary Joseph. Let's head back to Rise and Shine, where we have Janice and Uyai on standby. Do have a lovely weekend.
As of state and government, Secretary General, delegates.
The rest was being labeled Nigerian for Spectrum TV to improve on the license to
we saw that the First Lady Aisha Buhari and of course wife of President-elect Senator Oluremi Tinubu went on a facility tour yesterday, and we also hear that there are renovation processes going on at the Aso Villa facilities across there. Moving away from that, we also talked about the browse in the Labour Party, where the Labour Party faction wants Tinubu sworn in and says Peter Obi is asking for the impossible, which we quite agree, but then again, this is causing some shake-up in the Labour Party as we speak. A presidential election tribunal, of course, we have seen that it started on Monday, and just yesterday we saw the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, now PDP, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, make his first appearance, and of course the case has been adjourned to May the 18th now. And moving from there, let's look at what the papers have for us this morning. Of course, major stories on the front pages of our national dailies. So right now is up to our daily spotlight.
Yes, on Daily Spotlight, stories from the front pages of our national dailies. Let's start with This Day newspaper. Big story on This Day. Adamu, we didn't consult adequately on zoning of NAS leadership position. Admits responsibility. Says party will reconsider position. Aspirants warn position may have its way in 10th Assembly. Yari, North will take decision if zoning isn't reviewed. This injustice needs to be corrected, says Musa. We will challenge it, Kalu declares. Okay, it's a full-blown NAS war right there. Okay, CPLAT crisis spirals out of control as court suspends CEO, chairman, others, directs SEC to appoint interim leadership. Omiyi, we have appealed, filed motion for stay of execution. Axis Bank expands global footprint, launches French subsidiary in Paris. Okay, Buhari, Akeredolu celebrate Afenifere leader Pa Ruben Fasoranti at 97, page 6. Tambiwal, Atiku is incoming president. Confident tribunal will restore PDP mandate. Ex-VP, I reassure you we will recover our mandate. Court's action will determine stability of democracy, says Damagun. We also see here Sowami complete acquisition of Ardova, pays Otedola $19 million. Okay, big business stories right there, and that's all we have on the front page of this day newspaper.
We look at our next paper now. Let's take the Punch newspaper. The big story is still on the National Assembly leadership. It says APC moves to pacify aggrieved aspirants. And the writer here says stop agitations. Party will revisit zoning formula. Adamu begs aspirants. You can find that story on page 2. Going forward now, Customs sees sack of military uniforms. Okay. And we also have federal government sends foodstuffs to Sudan for stranded Nigerians. Lagos, naked man found dead inside a car. Page 4 is where you get details of that story from. Fasoranti marks 97th birthday, laments Nigeria's woes. Moving forward, Atiku relieves PDP's glorious day, says party moving backwards. Okay, we have that story on page 11. And debt servicing hits $112 million monthly, says CBN. We also have that story on page 18. Buhari Osinbajo, governors get 651 million naira hardship allowance. page 17 is where you get that from. Buhari, Osinbajo, governors get 651 million naira hardship allowance. And that's all the stories that we have on the front page of the Punch newspaper. Yeah, hardship allowance. Anyways, we'll talk about that.
If the president is getting hardship allowance, what should Nigerians be getting?
Exactly.
Okay, so let's just move on. I'm sure we'll concentrate on that story after now. It doesn't just make sense.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so let's do Daily Sun. Looking at Daily Sun this morning, the big story: APC admits mistake in zoning of Senate presidency. Others urges aspirants to give party time to further consult. Pledges response when president-elect returns from foreign trip. Microzoning to individuals wrong, undemocratic, says Kalu. Lawmakers will disobey party on day of voting if Yari wants. Now, all of that story, you can find it on page 6 if you want to find out what the if is. We also see here that Tinubu, INEC to reply Atiku Obi over request for live broadcast of tribunals proceeding. When I remember Gideon just saying it was not in the best interest of the legal luminary and all of that, I feel like I could lean into that particular sentiment. They also see NAS leadership, Igbo group condemns APC zoning formula. Party must avoid repeat of 2015 rebellion in Senate. Vastra, page 27. Court reinstates Ebonyi deputy speaker, 8 other lawmakers. Others full payment of their salaries and allowances, page 28. It's time for stock taking, Atiku tells PDP governors, page 27. Court delivers judgment in federal government suit against ASU May 30. Okay, we look forward to that. Osinbajo flags of Oguta Lake, Orashi River dredging project in Imo with hope of economic boom. VP, CDS, Iwanyanwu, others hail Uzodinma over development programs. Imo APC chieftain killed by gunmen. That's all the stories that we have on the front page of Daily Sun.
Our next paper this morning will be the Nation newspaper. Let's see what the Nation newspaper has. Of course, still on the APC National Assembly leadership crisis. It says APC chairman to aggrieved lawmakers, hold your fire. And the writer here says zoning of National Assembly top post not final. Yari, Kalu, Musa take protest to secretariat. Umahi issues is this Umahi? Yes, Umahi issues will be resolved amicably. Okay, that's quite soothing now. VK Makinde, others Sean Pali with Atiku and PDP leaders. The writer says ex-VP laments party's decline. Moving forward now, we have that free Kanu as parting gift. Ohaneze tells Buhari. President Tinubu, others celebrate Fasoranti at 97. 75,000 inmates feed with 22.4 billion naira annually, says federal government. And non-oil export proceeds to attract rebate, says CBN. And that's all that we have on the front page of the Nation.
Okay, we'll take our last paper, and that will be the Vanguard newspaper this morning. The Vanguard, Senate presidency. Northern senator threatened revealed overzoning template. Be bold, reject Tinubu's anointed candidates. Senators tell APC NWC. Hold your fire, will ensure justice, Adamo tells Kalu. Yari, Musa, Izunazo, others. Not Central APC insist on speakership. Party will revisit zoning formula. Umahi says one can't be asked to be patriotic if intentionally excluded. Okay, presidential poll, court adjourns Atiku's petition till May 18. Ex-VP storms court for hearing of his petition against Tinubu. Are expelled suspended members acting APC script, says LP. Okay. Particulars of Kogi Bayelsa Imo governorship candidates out today. Okay, great. INEC. Federal government votes 2.4 billion naira for Moshood Abiola Stadium High Performance Center. Of course, that's a story coming out from the sports end. Angola overtakes Nigeria as top African crude oil producer. Page 19. Consumers raise concerns as fruit sellers use chemical for ripening. God have mercy. Detention. I am scared. Kanu may die in DSS custody. Ozehome. Page 8. Military onslaught. Panic as fleeing terrorists approach Bimingwari. Page 11. Oguta Orashi River dredging. Game changer for Imo and Africa, says Osinbajo. And we have, of course, picture story there of all of the things happening in Imo and the Access Bank opening of their Paris branch. And those are all the stories that we have here on the front page of Vanguard.
Okay, great stories coming through this morning. Of course, issues that are very critical to the growth of Nigeria and, of course, to the growth of the economy as well. But at this point, let's give Nigerians the opportunity to join us in the conversation. Of course, the phone lines will be displayed on your TV screen so you can call us or send us text messages. But we are serious issues here, and the National Assembly leadership tussle seems to be gaining a lot of momentum. I'll call it momentum because the crisis seems to be, getting too much at this point in time. Remember that sometime within the week, the National Working Committee of the All Progressive Congress now came up with a zoning list where they zoned, the Senate presidency to the south, and other zonings that they did in terms of even the speakership of the House of Representatives. But that didn't seem to sit well with a lot of, aspirants in this particular 10th National Assembly. And we also see here that the APC and the National Working Committee is also looking at how they can resolve all of these issues. If they think that, okay, coming out to say that they made a mistake, they did not think it through before they came up, but that's also shooting themselves on the foot, because it doesn't make any sense that you say you did not think it through before you came up with the zoning formula. It means that you just did things, half-heartedly. You not take, time to like have conversations with everybody that is part and parcel of this particular leadership tussle, and view things from all ends. You just, did what you wanted to do at the end of the day. But again, let's know that, taking these positions, it has to do with a lot of lobbying, and we have seen that play out amongst all of those aspirants that have been, gunning for this particular position. So the APC says we didn't think it through, we made a mistake. Let's see how they now go back, to sit down and correct whatever mistake they have made. But it's quite shameful to see that, a national chairman can actually say that we made a mistake in the zoning formula. What kind of mistake is it? And why should we be making mistake in such a critical position as the third man in the helm of the affairs of the country? It doesn't speak well at all.
It doesn't speak well, but then again, when you look into it, it looks more like a move to save face and save themselves. Not necessarily because they have a problem with who they listed as who they want for, Senate president or Speaker of House. It may not be that they have a problem with it, but because it looks like it's beginning to brew a lot of controversy within the APC. You now hear, Adamu saying, "Oh, we made a mistake," just to save face. Not that. Because you would expect that all the rational moves had been made before they listed those people. Do not even forget that one of the strongest conversation around the Senate presidency is the fact that lobbying is a strong tool for who becomes Senate president. So, for instance, who these two men that had been listed as the preferred candidates for those positions, right? Those two people that were listed, you would expect that they had giving themselves an advantage through how they had lobbied. I personally would believe that they had lobbied maybe Adamu very effectively, lobbied the president-elect, very effectively to get themselves named. So it's not necessarily a matter of the APC, NWC, or Adamu saying, oh, we made a mistake. I don't think so. It's just a safe phase mechanism because they see all of the uproar that is bringing. Now, my concern will be, as of this time, what does the fate of these two people become in that particular race? If you're having a lot of people renege on the fact that we do not want you to be, or more like we do not want you to be handpicked as who will become Senate President and Speaker of House.
I think more like what all the other aspirants are saying. Look, let's have a level playing field.
Everybody, yes.
Let's not say it is zoned to this particular geopolitical zone, okay? Because when we say it is zoned to the south, I think the only person that is likely to benefit from that will be Gospel Akpabio.
Okay.
So forget about the zoning. That's what a lot of the senators are saying, and of course the aspirants now. Forget the zoning. Let's come to an open field where people will vote. So let it be that they have gone in, done their job properly, lobbied properly, and then they open it up for people for other senators to vote. And let's see who wins at the end of the day. So I think that that's where they are actually tilting to, because even before the National Working Committee came up with the whole zoning thing, and zoned it to the south, there were conversations. We do not want zoning. Zoning will not bring national peace or national unity or national integrity. That has always been the conversation. And I think that going by what has happened, a lot of these senators are still bent on, let's not zone. Let's open the race for everybody that wants to contest for it, to contest, so far as you're not a newbie, because it's only newbies that cannot, contest for that particular position. So, well, I don't know. The National Working Committee and the National Chairman, Abdullahi Adamu, should go back to the drawing board and see how they can, satisfy all ends.
All parties involved. I'm just hoping that at the end of the day, the chance that these people could have stood on their own without having been handpicked does not, work again. There's how you now get to a point and I say, okay, oh, you were the one that was handpicked, go and win, let us see, or as opposed to if this had not happened in the first place, what chances may they have stood, on this? But it's a serious issue. We see the disgruntled parties in the whole Senate presidency thing is a big deal. We are seeing that the North is saying they want to be Senate presidents. We are also seeing the Easterns on this. Welcome back. Of course, this is still Rise and Shine. Conversations are ongoing from the front pages of our national dailies. Big stories. Feel free. Our phone lines are displayed on the screen. Feel free to call in, send us WhatsApp or text messages. Let's get your thoughts on these issues. Just before we went on that break, we were x-raying the wranglings that are, coming up within the APC because of the zoning of the seat of the Senate presidency and the Speaker of the House of Reps. We see that the national chairman, Adamu, has come out to apologize that due process was not followed before the listing was made and that everybody should hold their peace. They are going to renege on that particular move and such that everyone can have a fair playing ground. That is one of the conversations we've been having so far from the front pages of our national dailies. And like I was asking, does that put the two men that were listed by the APC at a bad place to still win, if at all they still vie for those positions? But yeah, these are things happening in the country. More big stories. I mean, everything is literally about this Senate presidency now. We are seeing hold your fire, and all the likes.
Yeah, definitely. I think we'll even look at another very interesting story. Yeah, this actually is quite. Let me look for that paper. It's on the Punch newspaper now. The Punch newspaper. There was a particular headline that says Buhari, Osinbajo governors gets 161 million naira hardship allowance. And I think at this point we need Nigerians to come on board. We need to hear from Nigerians. I think this is even the first time I'm getting to hear that there's something called a hardship allowance. Hardship, what kind of hardship is coming to Buhari? What kind of hardship is coming to the vice president or even the governors? Exactly, what kind of hardship is it? And this kind of money, when you even look at how much it is, you're beginning to wonder. And we take it back now because these kinds of things are practical conversations that we need to have. We look at even what the common Nigerian is facing at this moment. We look at what the economic realities have put a lot of families into. We look at even the statistics that says how many millions of Nigerians have fallen into the poverty line or under the poverty line. What has government done to bring out these people? Yes, yesterday we talked about the fact that the president is still asking for the $800 million, to use in giving 5,000 naira to 10.2 million families across the country to feed on for the next 5 months, or rather next 6 months. What will 5,000 naira do for a family in Nigeria, like on a monthly basis? What will 5,000 naira do? And here we have 651 million naira used for governors, used for presidents and vice presidents as hardship allowance. What kind of hardship are they going through? Are we joking in this country, or what exactly is happening?
It's a pitiable situation that we are seeing ourselves because there's no rationale behind it. First of all, they are being paid. They're being paid pensions.
The allowances.
They're even being paid pensions aside from the allowances and the salaries they have received in the 8 years that they have been in the saddle of leadership. We were still arguing the fact that why are you getting pensions as high as this for being ex-presidents, ex-governors and all the likes. And now you're seeing that apart from getting pension, that when we're even having conversation about pension, it is hard to pay a retired teacher, a retired civil servant, the meagerly 80,000, 100,000, 150 that they earn monthly as pensions. And you're saying that, our presidents now and vice president will be getting 651 million naira as hardship allowance. What kind of hardship exactly are they going through that they need, to divide 651 naira amongst themselves? When you talk of hardship, you're talking about Nigerians who cannot afford to have a roof over their heads. You're talking about Nigerians that cannot afford to buy rice at the cost of 250 naira per cup to feed families that have at least 9 people in them. It's unrealistic. When we sit down and make policies, how are we not thinking about the people? You're wasting 651 million naira, but you say you want to borrow 800 million naira to come and share 5,000 naira monthly for families. It's appalling to hear. And the fact that we are still going to have people in the National Assembly who sit down and append signatures for these things to fly is, I think, is the worst case scenario hearing. Because, I mean, it's more like a, scratch my back so that I scratch your back issue. When we are sent to your 651 million as hardship allowance, if we now decide to put a quotation for what we want as House members, you will not, have the moral standing to say no.
Exactly.
It's a major problem, and it's really disheartening. We do hope that it is just a postulation that does not, see the light of day.
Well, it's not. Look, at the thing is, this particular news item is on the Punch newspaper.
Exactly.
And these are like investigations that have been done in the 8 years of the Buhari-led administration. So they are looking at, in 8 years, this is the monies that have been accrued to president of this money. It says that, of course, the RMAFC document disclosed that the president is entitled to 1.76 million naira annually as a hardship allowance. So this means that within a period of 8 years also is entitled to 1.52 million naira annually. So in the space of 8 years, Osinbajo would have earned 12.16 million naira as hardship allowance, while state governors are entitled to 1.11 million naira annually. Governors would have gulped 319.68 million naira, while that of their deputies would have gulped 305.28 million naira. And that's where we are. And then we have a situation where the health sector is epileptic, the educational sector is crippled, security, we cannot say that Nigerians are sleeping with their two eyes closed in some parts of the country. Why are we this wasteful in this country?
When we do the breakdown that way, so we're just giving perspective, expanding it now. So this is more like what they have earned already. When you do the breakdown that way, it looks like, okay, it's reasonable funds over the space of 8 years.
Yes.
So it might be, now this is my quick thought. If that is all the allowance that they get, it is fair. The problem we'll have is with the name. All the allowances that they have accrued to these offices, that is now the major problem that we have. So I'm saying, if you do a quick math and break it down for the level of work that they do, you would say, okay, 12.16 million, 16 million, for Yemi Osinbajo now in 18 to like 10 more allowances. Dental allowance, health allowance, of which we know that there are several other allowances. Now that is going to be the problem, and I think the name tag of the allowance is the worst hit, because when you say you are giving them an allowance for breathing, it's funny, because that's what it sounds like, hardship allowance. So you're like, Mr. President, small headache, that is hardship, sorry sir, take 1.2. It doesn't make sense. Let's interpret these funds to be able to reach Nigerians. We are not saying that, to an extent, our lawmakers, all of the remunerations meant for these offices and the allowances. It is
hardship allowance is a type of allowance which is 50% of the annual basic salary. That is what is described as hardship allowance. 50% of your annual basic salary is your hardship allowance, right? And I was also trying to look at something, an extra amount of money now that someone is paid for working in a difficult situation. Hardship allowances are normally calculated as a percentage of salary, which is the 50% of your basic annual salary, your basic salary. So what kind of hardship are we talking about? The strength of governance, or the stress of governance? Is that what exactly we're talking about? Now, you see that in this hardship allowance is definitely different from, car allowances, health insurance allowances, this kind of allowances, and that, or sitting allowances and all of that. So basically, for the stress of governance, this is hardship. Take 50%. I think, yeah, no matter how we want to put it, it's absolutely waste of funds.
It's a waste of funds, and it is hurting and disrespectful to Nigerians. Just to say, especially are you the one that is in the northeast or the north central or anywhere else that is faced with insecurity issues? Are you the one who is the soldier who is on the field risking his life? Get those kinds of allowances. Those are the real men who should be getting hardship allowances. We are not really, there's no sentiment behind saying they cannot get allowances, but the justification that we give as to why they earn this amount of money is the problem. Because how do we justify hardship allowance? You can get allowance for anything else. There are corporations where people work in and they get health allowances. There are different fringe benefits for the kinds of jobs that you do, and that's fair. But we are saying in our country we have a problem with justifying how and why we are spending a particular amount of money, and it has been trying to debate on is how much they earn even as state governors for pensions. Now, one of the arguments, I think we're even reading it this past week, where people are earning upwards of like 10 million monthly as pension, but yet those same people are ex-governors, they're current sitting ministers. So they're still earning as ministers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, smaller units of the country. Even if we cannot sort out capital intensive things, there are small loans, and grants that can be given to people to help SMEs, to help MSMEs. There are things we could do with this money. Tell someone to come and get a 200,000 naira grant, go and start a small business. But no, the politicians must earn it all because they are saving us as a country. It's pitiable and unrealistic, really.
From all of the stories that we have this morning repleted on our national dailies. But we'll take a breather now, and of course, remember today is Friday. We normally talk lifestyle. Today, aside from the serious national issues that we'll definitely talk about, we're trying to also see how we can connect with our guest this morning to look at the global burden of asthma. Yes.
World Immunization Week is a global healthcare event typically celebrated every year in the last week of April between 24th and 30th of April. It intends to promote vaccine usage and protect people of all ages from infectious diseases. The theme for the 2023 World Immunization Week is the Big Catch-up. Spectrum Television was out to sample diverse opinions on immunization, its benefit, effect, and the myth attached to vaccines.
Seeks to promote the usage of vaccines. This year's World Immunization Week is themed the Big Catch-up. Join me as I sample diverse opinions on immunization, its benefits, effects, and the myth attached to vaccines.
Immunization Week, usually I always say, like any World Health Day that marks something or promotes some vaccines thus far, especially once they had started having vaccinations and immunizations for children and everybody across the world. It's just a reminder of how effective that has been and then what we can do going forward. In Akwa Ibom State, we vaccinate our children every day of the week. So it's just a reminder that's why I said, so the week, it's not that the week is set aside to vaccinate children. It's something that we're doing constantly, day in, day out. It's just a reminder of the importance of vaccinations and immunizations. So it's been on
an extract into the host, which is a human being, to evoke the immunologic response, so that when these organisms come back again, there's already an immune defense system that identifies these organisms and help you combat those illnesses better.
Okay, immunization, the essence of immunization is to confer on people immunity over a particular ailment. Take, for instance, COVID-19 virus. People have encountered the virus. The virus is unable, to be injurious to their health.
Generally, immunization is very, very vital and important in the health of the people, because immunizations go a long way to leave the system with that adaptability to fight the different diseases of which the vaccine or the immunization was given. So there's this old saying that say prevention is better than cure. So immunization prepares the system to prevent the persons from coming down to these diseases. So it is better.
To a layman, if I was to explain immunization, I would say they are those preventive measures or vaccines you take before an illness begins.
Since the introduction of vaccines, statistics say the global mortality rate in children less than 5 years has dropped drastically from 93 per 1,000 live births in 1990 to 39 per 1,000. Others refuse to be immunized, while some do not know the age ranges for immunization. We spoke to medical professionals and citizens asking them, it is not enough to know what immunization is. Has your child been immunized? What are the age ranges for immunization?
Meno. 1 month to 9 months to
Yes, from 1 month to 9 months now.
That was when I was a little child, when I was a teenager, and so.
All our children, as soon as they're born, are supposed to get their basic vaccinations.
It depends on the type. You know, we have the ones for children, and most of them, if by 1 year, 6 months, you've completed most of those ones. But there are still booster doses at 2 years and of these immunizations at 2 years and at 4 years. The immunizations that like the human papilloma virus, you know, adolescent girls, tetanus toxoid, adolescent girls, COVID-19, adult children. So there's actually, it depends on what immunization it is. So there's no age limitation to immunization.
We have immunization for babies. You have it cuts across almost all the ages, depending on so many ailments. And so from the baby stage, you know, a lot of vaccination is being given to them to avoid most of those common ailments that may come to them.
Usually for immunization, we say from 0, because there are some vaccines you take from when a child is giving birth to. So from 0 to about 6 years. There are different for hepatitis that is taken around 3 months and thereabout. To a very large extent, it's almost like 0 to 6 years.
Remember, the goal of World Immunization Week is for more children, adults, and their communities to be protected from vaccine-preventable diseases, allowing them to live happier and healthier lives. However, there's a negative perception attached to immunization. What is the reason for this?
Vaccines, like any other medicine, it's a medicine. It's something you're taking extend. Not to say, I took a vaccine, I had a headache, and then the next person says, I'm not going to go and take the vaccine because I don't want a headache. You might not get a headache. You might not get any adverse reaction. But we just let the children, the mothers, the caregivers know that, well, it's possible that there's certain vaccines that if you give your child, the child may or may not come down with some symptoms. Just immediately you see any other thing, please inform us. And usually
Welcome back. This is still Rise and Shine, and it's Lifestyle Friday. We're going to bring you lifestyle conversation as our focus, topic for today. We need to link the global burden of asthma. We get to see that even in sub-Saharan Africa, we have a lot of people that are battling with this particular sickness. Sometimes there are several myths that are surrounding, the ailments. That is why we want to have this conversation with you this morning. What are you doing right? What are you doing wrong? And to have this conversation with us this morning is Dr. Thelma Bassi, who is on the show this morning. Good morning, Dr. Thelma. Can you hear us? Okay, we don't know if she's frozen, if she can hear us. We don't quite know what the situation of things are. But yeah, asthma. And I'm wondering which is it exactly.
Exactly.
You know, so
it's always been asthma.
yes,
It's always
asthma.
been asthma.
Asthma. What's that?
But again, it's a really serious conversation.
Yes,
It's a
it
health serious health issue that doesn't have to be taken lightly as well, because research says approximately 180,000 people die annually because of this particular ailment, and the need to talk about it. How do we even, is it that some people inherit it, or you have it in your gene or in your lineage? That means that maybe one family member has it, that means another family member might have it, and all of that. How do we begin to even take care of situations like that? And what are those things that we need to eat? Because I've seen people that says, oh, they cannot eat onions, when they are asthmatic, or they can't eat fried food when they are asthmatic. You can't go to a place that is dusty when you're asthmatic, and all of that. So we really do not know these things, right? And some people have come under the burden of this particular illness, but how do they go about it? And there are people that will tell you, oh, they can actually treat asthma traditionally. And then you feel that there's somebody from your village that is, after your life, dissect these things. I think last week they celebrated World Asthma Day. Yes, to also sensitize people on checks, how to go about checking if you're down with asthma, what you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do. Almost every illness will have its do's and don'ts. Don't do these, do these, and all of that. But as it is now, we try to also see how we can reconnect our conversation with Dr. Telma, because she is a professional in this. And of course, okay, Dr. Telma is back. Good morning, Dr. Telma Bassi. Well, the network seems to be on our way this morning. Let's take a short break and try to fix things up. We'll definitely come back to this conversation. Do stay with us. We'll take a short
and their communities, there's a negative perception attached to immunization. What is the reason for this?
Vaccines, like any other medicine, it's a medicine. It's something you're taking externally into yourself. So yes, they do have adverse effects, but the effects vary depending on the interaction with the individual. So it's not enough to say, I took a vaccine, I had a headache, and then the next person says, I'm not going to go and take the vaccine because I don't want a headache. You might not get a headache. You might not get any adverse reaction, but we just let the children and the mothers, the caregivers know that, well, it's possible that there's certain vaccines that if you give your child, the child may or may not come down with some symptoms. Just immediately you see any other thing, please inform us. And usually on the vaccination card, we have the name and number of the, what we call disease surveillance notification officer. So those are the people that track any adverse effects.
The negative aspect is just the side effect that some persons may have following immunizations. So you can have pain at the sites. There can be pain. There can be some tenderness. Okay, that's pain. There can some in the immunization, and this is person dependent. Okay, so and those ones when you take to the hospital, they are properly identified and treated.
There are some resistance by the populace in vaccination, because of the so many false rumors people had about vaccines. For instance, some people said if you take vaccines, you may turn to chimpanzee. If you take the vaccine, you will die after 5 years. If a female takes the vaccine, he may not be able to get pregnant. If it spreads too fast, everybody get to hear about it. Most of these false stories has been debunked scientifically. They have given scientific proof that yes, this that was said, look at why it can occur. That was said, look at why it can occur. The other truth part of it don't spread as fast as the false part, and that is why, and that could be seen in the number. Some are vaccinated up to 2 years now, 1 year now. None of those people, including myself that are vaccinated, have witnessed any of those myths about the vaccination.
Regardless of these circumstances, there are 3 common vaccines in Nigeria. The 3 vaccines include BCG against tuberculosis, polio vaccines, pentavalent vaccines containing vaccines against diphtheria, pertussis and whooping cough vaccines, tetanus vaccines, hepatitis B, measles. And did you also know that most community pharmacies are free vaccination points?
Most of the community pharmacies in the states has been trained and certified to vaccinate in COVID-19. And so those centers are like government extension. So, and then the advantage of the community pharmacy is that you could actually vaccinate at odd times. The community pharmacy is always open, almost on every day, particularly up to weekends. And so you could walk in on a Saturday or Sunday and get yourself vaccinated. And so having the such services in the community pharmacy is for the benefits of the populace, so that they can have at least convenience of accessing health care at their own time.
It is safe to say that efforts have been made. Is the result commensurate with the effort? The federal government, through primary health care facilities, made for door tests.
Well, it's sensitization, community sensitization. You don't stop doing, you keep doing it. You see, the more you sensitize the community, the more the acceptance of whatever you're sensitizing them against. That's number one. Number two is also having a strong system for adverse effects following immunizations. So it means if someone comes to the hospital and has an adverse effect, a side effect, you should have that primary health care center, that institution must have good ways of managing or referring, as the case may be. What happens is that when parents come and their children have these things and nothing is being done, the remaining people may likely not come.
We usually go from door to door for immunization programs, and Those places, speak to the parents, speak to the mothers, let them know what will happen if the child is not vaccinated, if he's not immunized. Try to talk to the dads, because the fathers are like strongholds mostly. So talking to the parents, showing them, like, I feel like most times physical pictures make people understand things. Yes, so show them pictures of children maybe who have meningitis, measles, because we're not vaccinated and all of that. It will help.
Concerning the hesitance about immunization, it also has to do with our level of education. Like you mentioned, the North, over there, their level of education is very low, which means our government have to still do more to make sure the citizens are educated. Making education a right and not a privilege in the country will go a long way, because if they understand what you are saying and the advantages of the immunization, they will not hesitate to take the immunization. Again, maybe because most of the in the business of delivering to the citizens those basic things they are supposed to deliver to them, now they now see you are bringing this free, they suspect it. Like in the North, they will say they want to reduce their population with the immunization that they are giving them. Maybe because, again, the government have not been doing the right things they were supposed to do over time.
Nigerians, 2023 is our global opportunity to catch up on lost progress in essential immunization. If you are scared of the negative effect of immunization, the benefit outweighs the risks without harming the body.
It reduces disease burden. Okay. Now, reducing the disease burden means you spend less money on an ill child. The child is not out of school. If it is for adults, something like cancer of the cervix is easily preventable by immunization. Like the COVID-19, it reduces the mortality from COVID-19 infection.
You cannot really compare the positive to the negative, because the positive takes a vaccine for any ailment stand 100% better a chance than somebody that didn't take it. And so the benefit outweighs any risk at all that may be associated with it.
Hitherto, everyone is advised to be immunized, especially children, so they are shielded from avoidable diseases and we can build lasting protections in our communities. Meanwhile, the citizens and medical practitioners
Not a mother to subscribe to the immunization treatment, because it's very good for the health.
It's very bad to reject immunization because it's also good for your baby health.
Oh, the message is, please, when it comes to your vaccinations and immunizations, please go out there, avail yourself of what is there for you at the primary healthcare facilities. Usually the vaccinations that we have, the chain system, that from the state store, it's sent to the local governments, from the local governments to each of the facilities. So you have nothing to fear. Once the vaccines are there, please go and take your vaccinations, and they're free. They're actually free. Those vaccines are very, very expensive. Right now, they are spending so much money for us. So when they send it to us, and it's not just something that they're throwing to you. Remember, it's a global village. What affects us in our little village here in Iran will affect somebody, far away in Copenhagen. It might seem unlikely, but what if somebody from here travels over there with a disease? Or what if somebody from there comes here for some mission? We are likely to interact much more than we think. So if we're safe here, we're safe all over the world. So please go out and take your vaccines.
Yeah, World Immunization Week, a lot of sensitization is going to take place. We encourage those that have not had their vaccine, and be rest assured that there won't be any consequence. At worst, there could just be one or two slight symptoms that are bet within some.
Of course, the importance of immunization cannot be overemphasized, and of course vaccines as well, as it takes care of global issues and global illnesses. But it's time for us to wrap up the show this morning, but we also do sincerely apologize for not able to bring Dr. Thelma Bassi to join us in the conversation looking at the burden of asthma. But we promise you, of course, next week we'll look for a day to have that conversation. But again, I want to say a very big thank you to Recoup for the forthcoming week. My name is Janice Copeland. Bye-bye for now.
My name is Uya, and I can great delight to have done this with you all through the week. And of course, we do wish you a very splendid weekend. Rest, food, laughter, and joy in spite of everything. Let's do this again next week. We absolutely love and celebrate you. Bye-bye from Live and Fine.